they're lights, and it's not just for the photography. I use heat lamps to stiffen up the clay.
Red lamps and stuff like that.
They actually lamps that are people who keep snakes and
terrariums and stuff like that.
But just an ordinary spotlight gives off the same amount of heat. So then I move the light around, so I don't want glass in the way. But in actual fact, it'll be interesting to see how this goes. I have demonstrated for WASPON on occasions at that ceramic 3D print show. We had a 2040 and just took the door off, and the front of the print dried obviously quicker than the back of the prints did. That wasn't a very good thing because you're not getting even drying all the way around.
Well, you might have enough space inside this.
Yeah, I think there's more. Yeah.
So the only other thing I can think of is MDF to print on, or other material to print on.
MDF is fine. Well, it's okay. Obviously,
if you have a look and you see another material that suits better, there's Dibond, the aluminium.
Oh, no. You want something.
It's kind of powder coated as well. It's got paint on it.
No, absorbent is good as an MDF because then the form dries and comes away. The only trouble is obviously the MDF swells slightly.
Yeah.
I don't know whether you've got a water. I don't know if there is a water.
There is. Called Tricoya. There should be some of that inside. It's in 9mm and 18mm. MDF is exterior rated for 50 years.
Oh right. 9mm would do it fine.
It has to be CNC cut.
Okay.
So if that suits, I might do it later this evening. After the other chat here.
So with boards, I tend to do something that's a bathroom tile size, and that's I think normally about 15 centimeter by 15 centimeter.
I don't know a little bit bigger. This is 40 centimeter
and that's
diameter.
And then you need to have, I would say, at least something that's 20 by 20 if you happen to use the sheet, the smaller one. And then this guy can go out to 40, as you say.
So would you have two on top of each other?
No, I just have one.
Okay.
You were thinking, why were you thinking two? Is there something I'm missing?
Are you the one that's the tile size? I have another one underneath that?
No, I just put it on there.
Okay.
How many were glass?
Sorry, how you probably mentioned it already, but how much mix would you create or make at a time? Just
yeah. It depends on kind of what project I'm about to do. I think that if I've got some big work to do, then I'll try and do 3 times as much as this. But I'm trying to think at home, if I'm doing that scale of work, I'll probably get through 2 of those in a week. Possibly 1, in which case there'll be a little bit more with one of these. But it's very rarely sort of constant, to be quite honest.
So are you happy to leave it inside the tube, or?
Yeah, I leave it inside the tube, but there is a real problem, and that is that once you pressurize the tube, the clay actually starts getting forced out of the clay. The water starts getting forced out of the clay.
Yeah, that's.
Do you know?
That's the problem we had. Like the auger actually started to rust a little because of the water was.
So yeah, sorry. When I say I leave it in, I will leave it in for a couple of days, but I don't like the idea of leaving it in for any length of time.
Yeah.
And another thing is because the little rubber O-rings on the plunger. They get flattened.
Yeah.
And I think it's quite useful that they can be allowed to expand. So when you pressurize it, very often you get water dripping out the front of the container. And that's because it's been forced off. So even if I'm it tends to dewater where it's been pushed up against the front plate. So after a day, the next day, I often unscrew the front and just pull out about 3-4 centimeter of clay that's quite hard, in fact.
Yeah.
And then just push in the plunger on the back and go again. Too soft.
What about the reliability of the printing process? Would you be happy to leave it print overnight? No.
I almost don't leave it.
Yeah, okay.
And if I'm printing down in my studio, I do print in the house as well, so but if I'm printing, and that's a little bit in the winter, just warm the house up. But in the summer, if I'm printing out in the studio, I have been known to set up a tablet with Skype on it.
Yes.
So I can watch the print on Skype. And they're on. You see, I've got a machine. It's not quite as tall as it. These are 40 by 70. Mine's 40 by 60.
Yeah.
And it's built more or less. But I kind of took my measurements off one of those. And there, a print will be 6 hours. I mean, that in a way for plastic prints is not a long time, but for ceramic prints is, and after bloody 5 hours, if something goes wrong.
Yeah.
And if you can rescue it, because that's the nice thing about clay, that you have a chance to rescue it.
Exactly.
Because you can also repair it later on, that as long as it'll keep building, you can often sort things out. With a plastic print, if you get a glitch on it, it's kind of stuck.
It is. That's why we try to break it into parts, or like that you can assemble after. Like, do you put some sort of limits to your pieces? Let's say you model your piece on the computer and then you put it through a slicer, and the slicer tells you, okay, it's actually 6 hours. Will you reduce it down in a way, or play with the settings so it will come down to 5? Let's say you know that it'll be 5 hours for the barrel to empty, and instead of you making another batch and continuing the print.
Yes, that, you've probably seen the original machines I had used a glue gun container.
Yeah.
And those guys were only 45 minutes, and I think all of those have been done with it. So that's, the right-hand one was about the biggest I could get out of one. I mean, you could pause and put in a new container. And there I certainly, I use Blender, and it gives you an indication what the volume of the object is. So you should just check for volumes, knowing roughly what I could get out of one container. Working with a bigger machine, my clay containers actually for the bigger machine is bigger than those. Not a lot bigger, but a bit bigger. And I've never quite pushed it, so I think I can get 6 hours. So yeah, I guess when I'm designing the piece, I have all that in mind as to kind of what it's, so I don't have to swap over.
Yeah, so do you use 2 containers then, or do you use one and then fill it?
I haven't got that far. When I got the containers are made by a guy, and I said, please supply me with 2 tubes so that I can preload and plunges, preload the tube if I need to, and then do a swap. But I haven't yet made anything big enough that requires that. Because the way that was last summer was breaking out. And I haven't had a chance to get back to it. Right, I think it's probably about there. What would you call that? Toothpaste consistency? You see, how do you measure that? No, to try and describe it to something.
I was just wondering, would you measure by the stickiness of it?
Again, different clays have different stickiness.
Yeah.
And so that doesn't, that's it. And I get worried if it does get a bit too sticky, because that stickiness creates friction on the tube.
Yeah,
And then I mean, as you found, it takes a bloody long time to go down the tube. And so you need, for a sticky clay, you need more pressure. And that's why I do actually, if I'm mixing, see, if I'm doing porcelain, I keep it as it is. But I did try mixing a porcelain body for my own use that had a certain amount of grobbunt or monokite.
It just seemed to me that when we were mixing it with ethanol, the ethanol kind of made it less sticky.
Yeah,
kind of, more.
It's softened.
Stringy, like.
But still softened it. Isn't
Yes.
It? Yeah.
Yes.
Now, this is when I spent a couple of weeks 2 years ago out in Italy at. Well, I've never had the luxury of round ones. My
I don't know if it's a good thing or a bad thing.
My bat's always squared, doesn't it?
Yeah.
It really does not matter.
I had it like it was for the smaller one, and that the square one wouldn't fit.
No, get in there.
These are measured for the smaller one as well, but you could put them central enough. It worked with that.
Yeah, that's
before.
perfect.
I'll try the other material this evening. Just try one of them like that. It might be not porous enough.
Okay.
Because it's on the other end completely.
Anyway, so yeah, we did some experiments of going 50, the same as this, taking clay like that, and 50 water, 50 alcohol, that's the organic alcohol. And I mean, it's really interesting. The trouble is, you do get an awful whiff of alcohol when you print it. And I'm always printing.
Certainly do.
I'm printing in a confined space. And,
Oh, we use we just use mask when we're mixing and everything.
and actually, when you're printing,
I'm not here when it's printing, so it's,
we were in Italy, it was autumn in Italy, it was still warm enough to have the doors open, so we just had it ventilated. But I thought there's no way I can print in a British studio with this kind of stuff, because there's very strong smell.
I'm gonna head away.
Yeah.
I will actually be back in about an hour's time anyway, so if you have any other requests, leave me a mic, and otherwise I'll see you in the morning.
Great. What time is it tomorrow? I mean, I know
Not
it's on the
until
week.
10. Not until 10. But
Not
we're
until
opening at 9, and you can be here from 9 if you want.
It's fine, yeah.
Where are you staying? Have you figured out all your hotels?
Yes, yeah. No, the whole kind of the project is led by the Londonderry Fab Lab, isn't it? Anyway, they did the booking,
Okay.
and they put me into Limerick.
Savoy Hotel.
No, the one on the bridges before.
Oh, the across the river.
Limerick City Hotel. Okay.
Yeah. Juries, I think.
Very comfortable. I'm not used to that sort of thing.
Well, nothing but the best. Anyway, see you later.
Alright,
Yes,
see you in the
yes,
morning.
yes.